Happy Sunday, my friends. I hope you're doing okay. I hear some babies crying. I watch them grow. They'll know much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Alright, hope y'all are doing alright out there. Sorry, I heard a baby crying and got distracted and I got segued into a song. I wanted to go live and just say thank you to each and every one of you out there who has shown me nothing but love and nothing but support over the last couple days. You know, I am in shock and awe at two things. I'm in shock and awe that Warner Brothers would have even had the audacity to put out a statement like that. They've set themselves up, unfortunately, for a lot of issues. They do not know how many receipts I have for interactions that I've had. They do not know the people that I've been talking to. They do not know a lot of the people that I have that are willing and able to take part in the investigation, and that, unfortunately, is something that is ultimately going to jam them up in a big way. It was a bold move for them to go out and flat out call me a liar, in a sense, and say that I was not attempting to, or at least not call me a liar, but to say that I was attempting to not communicate or attempting to avoid the investigator or not cooperating with the investigator. It's the worst kind of spin that you could put on a situation like this, because I've got the receipts to prove that at every step of the way there's been clear communication as to what it is that we've been attempting to do. And so they put themselves in a really weird place, I'm not going to lie, and it really sucks because ultimately what's going to happen is somebody's going to get thrown under the bus for that statement that they put out. And if you notice in that statement, there was not a single quote from Walter Hamada. There was not a single quote from anyone. It was a blanket PR statement that was put out. So, as seems to be the way, and what I said about Walter Hamada throwing Joss Whedon and John Berg under the bus is absolutely true. But as seems to be the way, they probably intend to throw somebody's poor assistant under the bus for being the one that had to press send on that email. And that's unfortunately how it goes. It's gross. It's really gross. But the only way to cut through the PR spin is to hit it with hard fact, hard evidence, and to let people know, you're not playing games. So it's a really weird game. It's a sad and desperate game, but it's a predictable one. And they are simply being reactionary now, which is obviously not a good look. I made it very clear weeks before, or at least, on August 21st, 5 days before I was to go in and talk to the investigator, that I would be doing my due diligence. I would be vetting the situation and making sure that the investigator was indeed a third party and a fair and impartial individual. What they neglected to mention in the article that they had put out, and some people called it a hit piece, and for all intents and purposes it is, but what they had neglected to mention is that after my conversation with Walter Hamada, wherein I demanded of Walter that we be able to take this to whatever next step needed to be taken, because in the article they made it seem as if he bestowed this gracious request upon me to take it to the next level. Not at all. Not at all. After finally pinning him down and saying, would you be willing to support an investigation into what I'm relaying? And he and I had talked in great detail about Joss Whedon. We talked in great detail about Geoff Johns. We talked in great detail about John Berg. And his excuse for the situation with Geoff Johns was, well, Ray, I worked with Jeff on Shazam. I don't really think that he would do that sort of stuff or be that sort. And I go, Walter, you weren't there. I'm telling you, you weren't. You were not there when the man used back channel communication to call me into his office and made the veiled threat to my career. You weren't there for that. I said, you weren't there when Geoff Johns contacted me in 2018, a year and a half after Justice League, while I was shooting True Detective, to gloat, using back channel communications to gloat that there'd be another cyborg being used in the DC universe in a show that he was producing. I said, Walter, you weren't there for those things, so you can't tell me about it. And so, finally, when we got to the heart of all that stuff, and I realized that clearly this is a situation wherein Walter was attempting to protect Geoff Johns because of his continued business partnerships, such as Wonder Woman 1984, such as whatever other projects that they may have coming down the pipeline. I ended up saying, listen, this is just what I need. And so when he wanted more specifics about what was said and who said it, I refused to give him such specifics. I said, Walter, this is sensitive information. I said, the people that have stories to tell need to be protected. And so he did not escalate the situation in Warner Media. I received a phone call from the head of HR, the vice president of HR, and the vice president of labor relations from Warner Brothers. I had a 2-hour initial conversation with them wherein I detailed beat for beat, gave them names of people that they should interview, all of these things. And so, you know, the fact is I've got so many details that I can put to these stories, and I'm willing to do it face to face. All right, so when having to combat that with generalized statements, generalized press releases, it's an impossible task for them to do. And so, since they've opened up the can of worms, there are going to be certain things that I'm now going to be saying publicly, not about the specific experiences in Justice League, but in how the things have been handled up until this point, since I've come out with my allegations about Joss Whedon, Geoff Johns, John Berg. And if you remember, I had left in quotation marks and others. And there was a very specific reason why I put and others in quotation marks when I mentioned the Warner Brothers, the Warner Media rather, investigation. So, you guys, I appreciate the love and I appreciate the support. I'm not going to stop fighting. I've had so many people reach out to me, both personally and people who I don't know, professionals in the industry who have reached out and said, I know you're telling the truth. I know you're telling the truth, because they know the people that we're dealing with. And so they're encouraging me to go on. You guys are encouraging me to go on. I'm going to keep fighting the good fight, but I'm going to fight it with hard fact. I'm not going to fight it with emotion like they're probably wanting me to do. I'm going to fight it with hard fact. I'm going to fight it with logic. I'm going to fight it with common sense. Because obviously, that's the only thing that can cut through the nonsense, right? That's the only thing that can cut through those sorts of weird blanket statements that people make. So, you know, I will say, shame on them for doing that. And if they are hoping that I sue them, so that they can go on and ask a judge to put a gag order on me until all this stuff is done, they've got another thing coming. I don't care what the situation ends up being, you're not going to keep me quiet. So, that end, because I have not given them all the information, right? They're trying to figure out exactly who's telling me what, and what I know, and what I'm willing to say. And because I have not run it by them, I have not run it by anybody prior to me saying some of the things that I've been saying, they don't know what I'm going to say next or how I'm going to respond. So they tested the waters with that statement, and I think people saw through it immediately, and it backfired on them in a big way. Because when I can furnish receipts to immediately refute critical pieces of information that you're trying to use to defame me, you're toast. You're toast. So, like I said, they've escalated it to a different level now. I'm going to go ahead and figure out what the next best steps are to proceed in the situation. So yeah, just know we're going to get it done. And if any weird or funky stuff starts happening, you see weird or funky stories floating out around there, it's floating out there about me, you'll know. You already know. So on a bit of a ramble right now, but I usually ramble to myself while I'm walking. Helps me clear my head rather. But insofar as that's concerned, I want to thank you guys so much. This is one of those things where it affects more than just myself. All right, I know that I will take ultimately the brunt of what this is, but this affects my family. All right, you got people reaching out to my siblings, going, "Hey, what's going on? I'm seeing these headlines. Is everything okay?" So on and so forth. And I got to tell them, "Hey, listen, don't worry. You know how the media spin goes. I got it under control." So, they're gonna keep doing what they do, and I'll keep calling it out, and I'll let you know what the motivation behind their moves are, because they're not used to people just calling it out blatantly, particularly the people that they're dealing with. They're used to being passed through PR person after PR person, making sure that it's a statement that reduces blowback, reduces this, reduces that. I don't play those kind of games. I do not. And so, they've got a lot more power. They've got a lot more access to outlets to be able to blast their story out. But what I'm grateful for, what I thank my lucky stars for, is that I've got you guys out there helping to lift me up and helping to actually spread the truth out there about what's going on. So I was supposed to do some game streaming later on today, but I may just turn that into a quick thank you session for all of you guys over on Twitch later on at I'd probably say about 6 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, I'll do that. It'll just be a just chatting conversation, and you already know. Outside of that, y'all, I'm going to stay on them. I'm going to make sure that the investigation situation is one that is fair and that protects everybody that's got a story to tell, because it ends up these are some of the people that have stories to tell do not have the protection of having a large social media following to go to bat for them, right? Some of the people that have stories to tell, if it goes into the hands of the wrong person who's just simply looking to see who are the troublemakers, who are the ones saying this or doing that, they're the ones that are ultimately going to end up getting hurt beyond repair, with respect to employment and all that stuff. And as I've said in the past, I've been down a road similar to this before, right? Back in 2010, I spearheaded an effort to unionize a group of workers at a job I was working at. And ultimately, during that process, I myself had contacted the union. And you can check with them. This was 2010. It was local 360 based out of New Jersey, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. There were issues at the job. We were trying to get unionized. Myself and some other folks were let go during this effort. And we took that situation all the way to the National Labor Relations Board. All right? This is not stuff that I play around with. And I'm lucky that I've got SAG-AFTRA on it, because a lot of these calls, a lot of this information has been directed to them as well. So I'll be reaching out to them to make sure that we can coordinate our efforts to make sure that this does not escalate into simply a smear campaign. Because, if they can't buy you and they can't bully you, the only thing they can try to do is discredit you. So we're going to go ahead and get it done one way or the other. So we're walking uphill, my heart rate's going up. So anyway, thank you guys again. I appreciate the love. I appreciate the concern. I'd be less concerned, and because I already know once we get it to the people who are actually going to be impartial, the people at Warner Media, and I say Warner Media, not Warner Brothers, because there was an issue with respect to us being told that the investigator was working for Warner Media. And then I found out that it was a person working for Warner Brothers, and there's a massive distinction. And so there was a lot of floundering back and forth in email conversation as to who this person was actually working for. So the one thing I cannot have happen, the one thing I will not do, is rush through a situation like this simply for them to throw two individuals who they no longer have any ties with under the bus in order to protect other individuals who were at the company and who may still be at the company. And that's the bottom line. So I appreciate it. I'm gonna stop rambling. I'll see you guys later on today. Be well. Until next time, my friends. Peace. You know. You already know.